Okay, welcome to the first of the educational series that we're going to be putting together for you guys. Basically what we want to do is just add a bit of value to understanding sort of the methodology and the thought process behind some of the things that we do here at Iceni. Today the big focus is going to be on programming, as that's obviously why a lot of you join is the small group PT program, and just giving you some insights behind why we do things the way we do it, how we've sort of refined that across the years, and also just make sure that you know why we're doing things, because once you know why we're doing things and you understand that, then it just creates when I'm starting a program and doing anything, I like to know the reason why we do things, and I feel that's important for you to buy into the program and then get the most out of the program as well and understand it fully. So when we're telling you things in a session, you know why we're telling you to do things in a session. So firstly, the small group PT program is in essence a strength program. It's about getting you stronger, more flexible, more mobile. That's the reason we do functional fitness rather than like just bodybuilding machine style stuff where you're static on a machine working one muscle group. Take the squat for example. If you're doing a squat with full range of motion, you're taking the joint to its limits in terms of its range, and you're strengthening at those end ranges. So we hear a lot of people have been and done yoga and some stretching and Pilates in the past and that sort of thing, but what they've done is when you create flexibility, you create instability. Now you need to strengthen that joint at the end range. And what we see a lot of people do as they get in stronger, they get more flexible, and that's why we do those bigger compound lifts where you're using multiple joints and everything at the same time. That's not to say that those little bits of bodybuilding, bicep curls and stuff that we do in the program doesn't have its place, but the main focus for the session, as you probably noticed, there's normally like a main lift. We'll do a good warm-up before then, get you moving, get the joints that we're going to be using in that session or in that workout nice and warm, take you through the movement patterns, use that as a way to also screen everyone in that time. Okay, this person might not be moving slightly correctly, we can get into them in that warm-up period and really get them moving properly before they then start picking something heavy up. The program is also a structured program throughout the week. It's not just a cookie cutter, just this is what goes on these days. It's one we lay out, how we build the program out is we start with a week, a template, and then we build that out across a 4-week, 8-week, sometimes 12-week block of training, making sure that you're progressing throughout that time. Sometimes there might be various tempos where we're trying to get you to slow down and really control yourself into those end ranges with load. Great for stability and great for just building that control in those movements. That's really what we want to do to begin with when you start, is get you happy with all the movements, and then as you get stronger, fitter, then we can start to really push the intensity on. One thing that unfortunately is part of training is as your body, say if you've had a period away from training or you start to increase the intensity of your training, I use myself as a case example or a case study. When I've been pushing things, like for example when we're building up to the ultramarathon, what we're doing, you're taking your body from where it was and then pushing it to a place that it's not been before, and part of that is you're going to find where you have weaknesses and things aren't as strong as you thought that they were, and that's often where you'll start to experience some little niggles, some little aches and pains, but that's all natural and part of the process. Far too often people start doing some exercise, and because they've not done any exercise for a long period of time, or they're now introducing a different movement pattern that they're not necessarily used to, they then start experiencing some pain around that joint. That joint's going, basically it's like, whoa, what are you doing? Well, we've not been doing anything for a while. I'm not strong enough to do that, or because you've not done anything for a long period of time, there might then start to wake up some imbalances or some damage that you've got within that joint. Maybe if you've been sat down and now all of a sudden you're doing these sorts of movements where you're pressing overhead and doing various things with repetition, like you might start to experience some joint discomfort, but that's all part of the process. And what we need to do is, one, from your point of view, like we can't see pain. We need to know that, right, this might hurt. Communicate that to us as the coaches, and then we can adjust the session. Don't suffer in silence in that session and go, oh, that was crap, my shoulder was hurting the whole time, or my back hurt when I did that, so I just started doing something random. There was someone in the session last night, they started doing something different. So I was like, why have you swapped the exercise and started doing something random? It was like, oh, my back was hurting. So by communicating that to me, I could then assess his technique, see what was going on. We can't see pain. We've not got Superman vision. We can't see through your t-shirt and then see what's going on at spine level. Because some things to us, like your back might be in a good position, you're lifting with good technique, as far as what we can see. But there might be some knee pain coming up as a result of whatever. So you need to communicate that to us as coaches so we can then help you. And unfortunately, as you go through training, the longer you stay with training, you will pick up aches and niggles and pains. But the most important thing is just to keep yourself going. It's very frustrating for us as coaches when someone comes in and they say, right, I've got a shoulder injury, I can't train. It's like, I managed to train with my leg in a leg brace the entire time. I spent loads of time on a ski erg. I did some bicep curls. I managed to use my good leg. You can do core. You can always do something for 99% of the time. That's why we then refer people out to physios, and then they can come back in once they've been assessed and they communicate to us as coaches, and we can make sure that you're doing the right things. The people that do that, they go and see physios at Physio 3, they come back in and they have the best success rating in terms of going from injury to being out of pain and being strong again, because what they do is then communicate to us as coaches here, and we'll make sure you're doing the right things in your sessions rather than going to a physio, stopping training. They give you a list of exercises that you know you won't do at home alone, and that injury just goes on in a spiral. Your muscle mass decreases during that time, you stop doing exercise, you start eating more, and then you're just further and further and further away from your goal. If we can keep you moving during that period of time, then you're going to be in a much better place. And that's all part of the journey with training, unfortunately. You will pick up some niggles and stuff along the way, but that wants to be part of kind of the process, not from going too hard and doing crazy volume in a session or doing movements that you're nowhere near capable of doing. For example, some of the Olympic lifts and some of the higher complexity gymnastic movements that we used to do, for example, some kip swings, that all mean nothing to a lot of you. But we want to make sure that you're getting the most out of every single session, and that's why we have a structured program throughout the week that allows anyone to come in on any day, get a good full body workout, because you might train on a Tuesday and Thursday one week, you might train on a Wednesday and a Friday the next week, but you want to know that you're getting all bases covered if you're just coming on those 2 days. Very few people actually turn up and do their Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There are obviously a handful of people that do. It's amazing if you can do that, but the program's designed that you could just come in and get a good workout on any day, regardless. Right? So that's the strength training program, and that's what we've sort of refined over the last sort of 10 years of delivering program for myself. And obviously now that Ollie writes the program, we still sit down, we go through it, we make sure it's within the guidelines of what I would like to focus on with the program. Ollie will come to me with ideas, and we'll make sure that is where we want to take things. I have a filter for a session that if I wouldn't want to do that session, I'm not going to deliver that session. That's not going to go into the program. I always want to know that that's going to be a fun workout. Like I'm not going to hurt myself. I look at that and I go, right, that's a good workout. I'm happy to deliver that to someone. Another filter that I have is if it's something that I would deliver to my mum. I was a really low training age. Is that something that I'll be happy delivering to her? Someone that I love and care about, making sure that is something that is scalable, and we're able to tailor that to someone of my level, someone of any level if they're walking into the gym for the first time. And then we know where we're going to take that program to make sure that it's tailored to you. And that's how we tailor the PT sessions. So, for example, we can have 6 people, varying abilities, and we'll make sure that everyone gets the best workout. 99% of you come to us with the goal of you want to look better, feel better, and move better, right? All of those goals, we need to lift weights, we need to do that in a safe and controlled manner, we need to do that consistently, and then also we need to do some fitness alongside that. That's going to help with your fitness, obviously, and your body composition as well, because you're going to be burning some calories alongside that. So that's why it's a general program that we then tailor to everyone, and then your journey through your time here at Iceni will be individual, whether that's your calories, whether that's some training goals that sit alongside that. How do we help you get you from where you are to where you want to be, and everyone's journey will be different throughout that period of time. Some of you might come in and sit in sort of a period of like maintenance for a long period of time, and then something clicks, and then we see some great results. Some people come in and hit it hard. They come in, they see good results, and then they might be happy then to continue on their own, for example. As regards to the fitness classes, so what we see now that we're basically running engines and hybrids. So with our engine sessions I'll touch on first, that's all about building your energy systems. Right, when you're trying to build your fitness, it's not just that tip of the peak. So we use MyZone. We don't want to be just working on that point of the pyramid, right? That's a very small percentage of your fitness, right? We want to be doing lots of what we call base work, which is zone 2 work, where you're in the blues and greens and you're building that base, you're getting your heart and lungs. When you're sitting in that blue-green zone, what's happening is your body is getting very, very good at transporting oxygen around the body. Right? That's where all that adaptation happens. When you're working at higher intensities, what you're telling your body to do is clear lactic acid, right? So which you don't do when you're down in those lower zones. So you need to make sure that you're doing lots of aerobic work and then a small amount of higher intensity work. Far too much of the time, people only come in and they want to do hard intervals. There is space for doing that. What we might do in a session is you might have some longer, slower work where you're working on that, and then you might have some sprints and stuff to finish. That's why in a small group PT session, for example, you might do lots of work, nice, slow and controlled. Your heart rate might not sit that high. For some of you it might. But then there might be something, a little blowout to finish. We might chuck some accessories in there, depending on how you're sort of feeling within that session. Now, when it comes to tracking progress, obviously we've used various things in the past in terms of tracking weights and making sure that you are taking your training in the right direction. Now, what we've sort of come back on recently is, like, I don't track the weights that I lift anymore, right? I'll go into a session, it's like, right, we're doing 10s, right? You don't need to know exactly what you lifted on the last session because you might have slept differently, you might have eaten differently. We're not pro athletes. I'm not pro athlete. I'm not trying to win week in, week out, and build that sort of build myself up in a nice linear fashion and whatever, periodize and peak for competition. Like, if you're doing that, then great. We can sort of build that a little bit into the program. But for 99% of people, Ollie has a very specific training goal with his marathon, and he'll track his running, but he's not necessarily tracking his strength stuff. Myself and Gemma, we're just training very much the same as most of our members. We just want to look better, feel better, move better. And we've got some fitness goals that sort of run alongside that, hence why we do our running and our cardio stuff to maintain a good level of fitness. But for the most part, it's just about turning up, doing some strength training consistently, moving well, putting what the effort that you have for that day in, and getting the most out of every hour that you come into the gym. That's all you can really do. Don't beat yourself up if you're not lifting as well as you did last week. That's completely natural. Even more so for ladies. Obviously, your cycle is going to affect things. You might be Superwoman one week, and then the next week you just don't want to know. But coming in and getting that session in and making sure that you're staying consistent with your training, you're giving your muscles that stimulus of, right, we need to build some muscle and get stronger, and you're going to see progress nice and linearly in the long term. Right? And that's really the essence of the programming and why we do things the way we do it. We'll obviously vary things up with tempos, pauses, but what we want to try and do is get you moving as well as possible. Set that like foundational base with your strength work. First of all, that's like the stability. So what you've seen a lot of recently is us doing various what we call like rehab exercises, making sure that you're staying injury free. Because if you're not stable, then you're more likely to get injured when you start pushing the intensity. The more your stability you have within the joint, when you start to push it top end, then you're going to be a lot safer. You're also going to be a lot stronger. So you might think that some of these exercises where you're standing on one leg, point your toe around on the ground, or you might be doing some stuff like this, is quite boring. Yes, it's not the sexy stuff where we're trying to PB our bench press every week, but one, you're never going to progress by doing those things, and you're going to stand a much higher likelihood of getting injured doing those things. And that's really the essence of it. We want to keep you as injury-free. Like I said, injuries are part of the process, but we want to make sure that that's not such an injury that it's going to put you out of training. You need to like really go away and rehab, and it might cause an operation if you need to reattach a rotator cuff, for example. And that's really the essence of what we do with our programming. It's about keeping you safe, consistent, injury-free, and that's when you're going to really see some good results. Well, that's when we're going to build some good strength. That's when we're going to build some good muscle. Your muscle does so much more than just what you look like. In terms of like your health and wellness, it's going to keep you stronger, keep you more mobile for as long as possible within life. And that's really the essence of what we do it and why we do it. Okay, I think that's, without diving into it too much, I think that's a good round off of what we do here at Iceni in terms of our programming and our strength training and our fitness sessions. We didn't really dive into the hybrid sessions. They're kind of a standalone thing that is more about the intensity and having just a bit more fun with our fitness, which is a great part of it. But that's why we don't do those every single day, because we don't believe you should do those every single day. Those are some high intensity stuff, great to do here and there, but the vast majority of our training should be good quality cardio, good quality strength work done consistently.